I want to free fall out into nothing. I want to leave this world for a while. What's up, my dudes? Got us a little 2020 High Point National action. A lot of craziness going on in the world right now. The only thing I really have to say about all that, and pretty much all of 2020, is just be careful on how the media plays you. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about it. Just be careful. That media is doing a lot of crazy stuff right now. Like, for real. You got to look at the timing of everything. You got to look at, election year. You've got to look at all these other little elements. You think all this is just some magical coincidence? You really think so, Doug? Like, come on now. There's a lot of, media election year crap going on right now that you got to be real careful of. You got to be real careful of all this stuff you're believing on Twitter and Instagram and all these media outlets and stuff, Just saying, be real careful. This is a time where you've really got to think for yourself and not just go off of what you see on some random, Twitter account or some random Instagram news account or something. Like, you got to be real careful, dog. So, either way, wow, what a track, bro. I don't even know what I have my setup on right now, but I think it's on stock. I think, not 100 on that, but oh my god. Okay. Yeah, so this is definitely like some modern high point layout action going on here. Wow, I can already tell I actually really like this track a lot more than like some of the previous ones. This one's definitely got more of that like kind of ruddy, rough, almost a little more like the Redbud track is in this game, so that's kind of cool. I think the first 3 tracks they've came out with so far we didn't get last year at all with last year's DLC. Like, they're completely 100% brand new tracks. So that's pretty cool. I can't really remember which one comes after this. I think maybe Florida. I don't really know. But that was definitely smart on MX vs. ATV to go in there and give you all of the, quote-unquote newer AMA tracks that they didn't give you with last year's replica DLC. They gave you all those first so that it really felt like you were getting new tracks, right? Even though you're getting new tracks with the updated 2020, layouts and stuff like that of the tracks that we got last year, they're not going to feel quite as much of a new thing as, Hangtown, Southwick, High Point, Florida, all those tracks that we didn't get last year. So that was actually a really smart business move when you think about it, for them to release all those right up front. So it really feels like you're getting really new tracks that you've not gotten in this game before. That was definitely good on them for that, but okay. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, chilling on lap 5. Look at these ruts right here, dude. That is really cool. I know some people were talking about how, the terrain deformation has been looking a lot better on some of these, like, AMA replica tracks of the game than they did on some of those, like, stock tracks and just in the game in general. And they have actually updated the terrain deformation, I think, actually multiple times through the life cycle of this game. But not only that, but when you have these little pre-made ruts, it definitely helps form that terrain deformation better than just, kind of that super flat tracking type vibe they had on the stock tracks of this game when they first came out. And I know they even updated the stock tracks, but I'm just saying, like, that's what's making this terrain deformation feel so different nowadays, is because it's been updated. We've got, the little pre-made ruts that's helping it out. There's a lot of different stuff going into that's making the terrain deformation feel a lot better in this game now. So that's really interesting to see. But yeah, dude, not really a whole lot of complaints for this track. Feels pretty solid. It's actually quite rough, like a little rougher than I was expecting, but I don't really have a problem with that. It's definitely like a, super beat out, second 450 moto type, tons of pre-made roughness. Definitely like, roughness going up the jump faces, choppiness going up the jump faces. they've definitely got this more like more of a like pre-made style track versus like a perfectly prepped smooth type high point. And it's interesting to see that because it's all in what they decide to do pre-made wise is what affects the whole track, right? Like you could technically, and it's all in what sort of like version of the track you're trying to make, because you can go in there and make a smoother high point, and it's kind of like a high point practice, right? Where you're just going out there with a little bit smoother of a high point, or it's like first moto high point, not so much hardcore roughness, not so many hardcore pre-made ruts. And that would be okay, right? Like I have no disagreement with that, making a version like that. Or, damn, did a little James Stewart scrub there. Or you can go in there and make like a full-blown, blowed-out second 450 moto, hot, dry, blue groove, you know, choppy roughness, breaking bumps everywhere version of the track too, right? They're just all in kind of what kind of version they sort of go with each one of these individual tracks that really seems to totally change the entire vibe of it, right? Vibe! Can't forget that shit in the videos, boys. Going back to the old school fans, dog. Oh, man. I got to get back to some track review and shit, dude. Like on Simulator, man. I miss doing that for sure. But those ruts going up the jump face of that. But, yeah, like a lot of times with high point, you do see quite the little bit more on the smoother vibe side. They've definitely went with a lot rougher. It kind of slows you down quite a bit on the track with how rough some of these sections are. So it's an interesting take on it, for sure. Like, really interesting take. I'll definitely... This is almost a little more like Redbud style roughness, you know, just breaking bumps everywhere, roughness everywhere, big old ruts everywhere. It's a little more kind of down that vibe than what I was expecting really with what I thought they were going to do with the high point. But like I said, it goes back to all in what kind of sort of version of the track you're making. Are you making like you're going out there at the first lap of practice of the track when everything's perfectly prepped? There's not going to be a lot of pre-made. There's not going to be a lot of roughness. There's not going to be a lot of kickers up jump faces. Or is it like kind of that first, 450 moto vibe going on where it's, a little bit of roughness from the 250 moto, a little bit of pre-made ruts from the 250 moto, but it's not insane? Or is it like that full-blown second 450 moto beat to absolute shit? There's like multiple different ways you can do it. So I just wanted to kind of make that a point. But I mean, look at all these rut options. Good Lord. But yeah, this little section right here, man, kind of hard to get that triple because you naturally sort of over jump that little single before. That's kind of cool. You got to really think about getting on your brakes there for sure. But yeah, overall, pretty solid track right here. Yeah, it's just bizarre how, just the little quirky physics things of this game shouldn't even be with even the stock tuning of the game. That's what a lot of you guys are missing. I know a lot of you guys tell me, go there, change my tuning and I'll love the game so much more. Change my tuning and I'll get the full experience of the game. Listen, I'm not trying to disagree with you that the game would feel a lot better with a different tuning. I totally agree with all that, right? I've went in there and tried some different tunings. My whole argument, though, is it shouldn't even feel this weird and kind of janky and bizarre and bouncing into the corner and all that, even with stock tuning in the game, right? There shouldn't be that much of a gap between stock tuning and modified tuning in an arcade motocross game. There just shouldn't be. There really, at the end of the day, just shouldn't be. I feel like that's kind of been taken a little too far here in this game. You want that tuning thing to be more of a micro adjustment. You don't want it to be like totally changing everything about the chassis and the physics of the bike and you know what I mean? You can definitely get out of hand a little bit when you start getting into that. Yeah, with tuning, it obviously needs to affect how rough the bike feels, the suspension side of it, somewhat of the tire grip adjustment, Obviously, acceleration, top speed adjustment in the tuning, right? But once you start getting in that whole like chassis super changing everything, it can definitely get out of hand. And I think it has gotten out of hand a little bit with All Out. It's almost like if you don't, sit there and spend all day on this game and get that perfect little tuning setup, it's like you're not even experiencing the actual game. That's actually pretty insane when you think about that. That's too much for an arcade motocross game when you really sit down and think about it, bro. Like, it just really, really is. I don't know. I just feel like Reflex just had the best possible blueprint for that whole, like, how much tuning changes the bike, what kind of adjustments you have on the bike, how good stock tuning feels in the game, how good a stock suspension setup, how rideable it can still be in the game. I feel like Reflex just really captured one of the best balances of all that I've ever seen in any arcade motocross game ever before. But, yeah, bro, either way, a little bit of ruddy vibe action. Oh my God, Alex Ray, we'll cross the lines up there real quick, dog. Yeah, but either way, definitely a slower, like, look at this, man. They really, I'm not really too sure what the whole like 2020 layout of this track was supposed to be or whatever, but from a lot of the typical high points that I've rode on, this is a lot more tight. The whole scaling of this feels really tight. A lot of like super hill right here and then quick turn hill right there. Like some of these, areas and sections in the whole layout of the track definitely feels really cramped down from what I was expecting it to be, but it's still a cool feeling. Definitely a lot rougher, a lot more pre-made than what I was expecting, but it's cool though. Got that nice little tree section over here. Nice little inside rut right here that you can grab into. And then you got like this crazy ass wall. I'm pretty sure you can probably double that if you come out of that corner properly. There's just a lot of like slow going on this track, like really slow single and then tight corner into a little double and then another super tight corner. Not as much of that like fast, more flat track style vibe that for what I would usually expect on a high point style track like this. But I just kind of expected high point to be like a little bit more on the choppier side versus like Big Daddy Redbud style braking bump side. So it's kind of like they went a little more down that vibe. They definitely did capture the little choppy feeling too, but there's a lot of roughness on this thing, man. Like there's a lot of freaking roughness going on. I mean, look at these ruts. Holy good Lord. And this isn't just from the terrain deformation, by the way. A lot of these ruts were Hassan pre-made ruts from the very beginning, so kind of cool how you can do that little Ricky Carmichael double over the thing right there. But, yeah, bro, you kind of see what the terrain deformation's done on the track here. Let's see. Oh, my God, just got completely stuck in that rut. But yeah, totally different track experience than what we had with the Southwick. That last track that we just got, that was a lot smoother than this, a lot less pre-made than this. This is definitely a Hassan pre-made track, without a doubt about it. Tons of roughness, tons of stuff going on. Even the roughness, like, going down this hill is just insane, man. I mean, they are, like, really pushing the limits of pre-made right here. I'm not kidding when I say that. Like, they are really pushing the limits. I don't know how you could have really made the braking bumps or the pre-made ruts any bigger than what they were here. It would have just not even felt realistic at all. Like, had they went any more on the pre-made side, it would have made it feel almost, like, weird, right? It would have made it feel like too much pre-made. They're like right on that little tinkering borderline of it, but still a fun track, still a cool track. A couple little fun jump lines where it's a little more difficult to, sometimes you don't quite get the drive to jump that certain jump up over. You can definitely separate yourself in a lot of places. I'm sure if you have like that perfect little tuning setup, adjustment and all that, you can probably hit a lot of stuff a lot faster on here, getting through some of this roughness a lot faster. I just don't play this game enough to care enough. That's my thing. Like, know a lot of you guys tell me to go do this tuning thing, do that tuning thing. Man, I just don't care enough. I don't play all out like that. I just come in here, play it for fun. You know, if I want to go in there and take a game super, super seriously, I already do that with MX Simulator. Like, that, I don't have a reason to come in here in an arcade motocross game and play it to that extent, you know. I just don't even have the reason to do that. Like, it's totally cool if you do that, but for me personally, it's just not my thing. Like, I put all my time into sim when it comes to that, like, taking it super seriously and getting into the tuning and, you know, getting into the setup stuff and playing it every night and all that. I already have a game for that, man. I use arcade motocross games as just a for fun thing now. So, and once you get super deep in MX Simulator, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. You really will, trust me. But, yeah, so I think what happens a lot of times, people that aren't really like super into MX Simulator, they are super into some arcade motocross game, and so then they look at me like, Spence, why aren't you really into this game? Dude, set your bike up like this. Dude, do this, do that. It's like, bro, you're not even understanding, like, you're just not getting it. But I get it, though. Like, I mean, that's how I was with Reflex before I got into MX Simulator. But I'm telling you, once you get really deep into MX Simulator, you will realize sort of, like, you won't be so apt to get so deep into arcade motocross games after you've gotten that deep into MX Simulator. Trust me, bro. Trust me. That is the absolute pinnacle when it comes to all that kind of stuff. But either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.